All right, so now the first thing we're gonna do outside is we are going to turn off the circuit breaker that controls the panel, which is this guy. We are not going to use lockout tagout because nobody is here. We are the only people doing work. And I am actually going to put a lock on the panel itself so nobody can enter it here. So now we're going to open the panel real quick and make sure that it is dead just to verify. All right, so now I'll use my no contact tracer to see if we have power. Green means no voltage, red means voltage. So we're off, we are safe at the panel. This is off, it's off, it's now safe to work on. You can see here, these wires that are connected up are a little bit discolored. They were having an issue, as you can see right here, with that bar. The connection right there actually caused all those to burn. So we're going to pull these circuits that are connected here to your neutral up into the attic, splice them in, and then rerun them back down so that you have nice clean copper, because this is discolored pretty far up there, so you can see, and I just want to make sure it's nice and safe. So I will label it and pull the circuits up. We are going to label. We're just going to use labels to identify what goes where, so when we put it back, it's nice and easy. I'll go one on the wire here, and then one on the wire up high, just in case when we're pulling it out. I lose it. 61, 61. And then I'll put one on the breaker just to identify which breaker he goes to in case I get confused. And then the process is just repeated. So after I finish this, what we'll do is we'll pull up these circuits that are burnt with the neutral and junction them up there, and also label them correct to which one they're going, and then we'll put everything back. So now all these wires are labeled, so I know exactly what goes where, corresponding with the breaker that is here. What I'll do next is I'll put the breaker numbers on here, as long as the wire size is sufficient to hold it, which everything is. The only difference here is we're going to downsize this breaker to a 20 because it is a 20 amp receptacle. Even though it is 30 amp wire, it does need to be on a 20 amp breaker. So I'll disconnect this, we will pull it up. I'm gonna label these and junction up top. And to get these out, what I will do is I'll clip up top and down low. I'll break them, and then after I disconnect from your neutral and your ground bar, I will pull them up. So I'm going to clip these away from the ground bar and the neutral bar so that I can get which ones are long enough already and which ones will need to be rejunctioned because of the failure. So everything's disconnected here. Now what I'll do is I'll pull them up. So this guy, because he's short, will go up into the panel, up into the attic. Actually, he's long enough. That guy's long enough. How about him? No? He needs to go up. Okay. You got, okay. He can stay down. Okay, and we'll pull these other guys here and get everything out of the panel. We got extra of him, he'll be fine. And we would just connect the main from here. Okay, you want to start taking that apart? You start taking that apart? Okay. No, that's it.
All the rest of them have to know that?
Yep, and when make sure they stay labeled though. It's only 3 up there. All right, and we'll cut him. Depending on how long these are, you will want to judge whether you cut it or not. They are plenty long, so they'll make it anywhere we need to go. So I'm okay with cutting them. Plus, I like a brand new clean connection. He doesn't want to come. We'll give him the old heave ho. That's out. And you got to be careful here that we don't nick these. Okay, now that everything's out, I will label my breakers where they need to go. So as you can see now, the breaker sizes correspond with each number that it goes with. And then we have 3 more breakers for these circuits that were added into the panel for 70, 71. 72 is for the FAU upstairs. It is currently tied into 61, and we're going to separate it because this one is also tied into the bedroom, and we want it to be isolated. So the next thing that we'll do is we will remove any ways that it is attached in. So just here, we'll take him out, and then there's still these here on the bottom. What we'll do is we'll push those in or break them. There it goes in. It's good. See how it goes in there. We're good. There. Pushes down. Now what we'll do is we will pull the old panel out. Oh, nope, there's one more screw. Right there. The panel's out, and he's pushing the feeds up top that are being sent down to me. So now we'll pull out the panel, carefully feeding those through down there. Pull them out. This is a feed from up top. Just got to make sure not to smash him when we put the new panel in. So now the old panel is out. Then we will prep this panel to be put in. Your ground bar is already separated from your neutral. So we'll remove this bonding screw right here, because it is an absolute no-no to use that for a sub panel. And what we'll do is we will remove this knockout, this knockout, this knockout, and this knockout, as well as 2 knockouts down here for the size of our road mace connectors. So these 2, this side for our Romex here, and then we'll knock out other ones depending on which side they are going down. And we're gonna put 2 wires per connector. If it's 12 wire, 12 or 14 wire, the main will only be allowed 1, and 1 here, 2 here. Now what I'm doing is I'm putting these connectors on individually, getting them just a tad bit higher than where they're gonna go on the panel, so I can scoot them on in. Every one is going to need to be in a different hole. You can you have to abide by the manufacturer's details on them, which makes it kind of a pain in the butt. Some places will let you get away with putting them all in one hole, but I do advise against that and just doing it individually. It does make it a little bit harder and more of a pain, but you gotta make it right. So is that the last one?
No, we got this is our number 14. We got one number 12 to drop.
112?
Number 12. One for the FAU and then one of the replacement.
Okay. So he can go. Now that we have them all stripped, we are going to separate the grounds from all the other wires. Pushing all the others up and these down, back in. We're going to start with one side and we'll move over to the other. So we'll push them back. And we'll pick one, push them up, bend them over, cut them, and we'll follow suit for all the rest. This side, we're gonna do the same thing. The only difference is we're just gonna pass this behind this wire here to make it nice and neat. And then we'll go with the same thing. We'll repeat the same process and do our neutral wires. So we're going to pull all the hots up, or pull all the neutrals down and all the hots up. Okay, and some people, what they'll do is they'll start with the longest, loop it, find where it's going. And start from the inside. And some people would do it from the outside. It's just a matter of preference. You could, let me see where we go here. This is also very important. If you see here where your lug goes, it correlates with this finger, and then it does it again down here. So this is fed on this phase, this is fed on this phase. First thing we're gonna do is set it up how it is here with our black here and our red stripe here like it was previously. We're gonna set the breakers up in the same order real quick. Breaker configuration is now the same here and here. These three can go anywhere because they're new, so it's not a big deal. So we will just match them up here and here, make it nice and even. Okay, so we will have to do a little bit of configuration change. These will go down here on the bottom. 66 is on this side, he will be fine. 62 is long enough. 61 is long enough. 64 will be long enough as well. 63 is long enough. 65 is long enough. Everything is long enough. This one's a little bit short, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna switch him with another breaker that's long on the same phase. We know this is on the same phase as this finger and this finger. So because he's higher, we're gonna switch him up there. And now we're good. Now we'll just do makeup. The reason it's important to keep it on the same phase, because if you tie it all in and there's backfeed in the house, what I mean by backfeed is two breakers that are tied to, or what I mean by backfeed is sometimes when you get people in houses, they need power and they pull from one circuit, and they somehow will tie two circuits together in the attic or in a wall or somewhere, and it'll operate fine at 120 if it's on the same breaker phase. But what happens is if you do the panel change and you switch any of these, if there's backfeed in the house somewhere and they're opposite phases now, you now put 240 to whatever their stuff is, and that's a big problem. Now we're gonna tie everything in. I like to start with the top breaker and then work to the bottom from there. So he'll be straight right there. We'll strip him. You only want to strip back far enough so it's not really showing. You want to make sure that the wire goes in that hole back there also, because sometimes it will not, and you'll tighten it down either on the back side or not at all. You want to give it a nice little pull to make sure that it's in there, and then you repeat the process for the rest of the breakers with everything corresponding to the number that we labeled it at first. We'll turn all the breakers off, and then now we will zip tie the wires, make the panel nice and clean. Now that everything's zip tied and everything's nice and clean, the last thing we're going to do is make sure all of our connections are tight. From the neutrals, we want those really tight, because that's typically where you have a problem.
You're supposed to come today?
And then we'll pull on these wires,
So many times.
make sure none of them are
Yeah.
loose.
Oh, yeah. He's a good worker. He's a hard worker.
This is the rotor.
And tighten everything that as well. All right, so the last thing one of the last things we're gonna do is count from here, 1, 2, 3, 4 down, and that's where we're gonna knock out the rest from there. So it will be 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we'll knock out all the rest on both sides from there. So after tightening everything up, we just landed the panel cover, tighten down your screws. Now what we will do is we will correspond the breaker number with the cover of the panel. We do have to remember we switched 64 and 70s in there, but we'll write it down on a piece of paper, get everything where it needs to be, and then match it up with the labeler. What we did here is we removed the fridge, just made it washer and dryer, and it correlates with your numbers here. And then all these numbers correlate here, and we made it correlate here. We did move a couple around, so they are not exactly the way it is here because we had to switch because some of our wires were too short.
Okay.
But everything is lined up and good to go. Here's the panel, done, finished, everything's turned on, good to go. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.